What was Professor Ambrose Alli's relationship to the Oba of Benin and the Onojie of Ekpoma? What is the current relationship between your family and those royalties? While you're answering this question, you also want to tell us your relationships between Ambrose Alli and Chief Tony Anenih, Chief Anthony Enahoro, and Roland Owie, as well as Igbinedion.
Okay, so to answer the first part of your question as to what my father's relationship with the Oba of Benin was and is, the Oba of Benin is clearly our royal father. Um, I think it's very important to say. And it's also important to acknowledge that my father and the Oba of Benin had certain political they didn't see eye to eye on certain issues. Um, but that is in the past, and there's no point in going over it. I think you would need to ask His Majesty of his view on that. Um, Hindsight. They say hindsight is you have 2020 vision in hindsight. So it's very easy, but that's a question you need to ask His Majesty about. I think it's also important to say that we have very good, and the family right now currently has very good and cordial relations with the palace and His Majesty, and I count several of His Majesty's children as my personal friends as well. I think that's very important to say, and we have very good relations with the palace. Um, as for my father's relationship with the Onojie of Ekpoma, my father had a very close relationship with the Onojie of Ekpoma. In fact, before he died, he said to myself and my brother that we have to maintain a very good relationship with the Onojie. My brother inherited my father's title, so my brother is the Ezomo, which means that he has to have a good relationship with the Onojie anyway. But we do have a good relationship. The current Onojie, I would like to pay tribute to him because clearly it's challenging as Ekpoma has gone from being a village, and Ekpoma did used to be a village, and I think there's a lot of people probably don't remember it. I remember Ekpoma as a village. Now it's a small city. But His Highness Zaiki is doing an excellent job, and we need a modern monarch for a modern town. With regards to the other gentleman that you mentioned, Chief Anenih, clearly Chief Anenih ran the campaign against my father in 1983. But like I said, life has some irony. So when Chief Anenih was detained, and Chief Anenih was detained by the Buhari regime and put into Kirikiri, he shared a cell with my father, and he had been taken and he wasn't allowed to take any clothes. My father, on the other hand, who was waiting for them with a bag packed, um, had pajamas, and my father gave pajamas to Chief Anenih, and those are the pajamas that Chief Anenih wore during his time in Kirikiri. So, my father certainly did not hold any personal grudge or animosity against Chief Anenih. With regards to Uncle Anthony Enahoro, and I call him Uncle Anthony, so I guess that should give you an idea of their relationship. My father considered Chief Enahoro to be an older brother, and he looked up to him. They just disagreed politically. That's it happens, and the same with all the other gentlemen. So that is how my father liked to conduct his relationships. My father was quite a humble man. He didn't have very many airs and graces. He preferred being called Prof to being called Your Excellency, for instance. He did not like being called Chief. My brother actually, right now, does not use his title except in extraordinary circumstances, shall we say, because actually traditionally you don't call yourself a chief. people refer to you as chief. Traditionally, you refer to yourself as your title. That is, maybe Nigeria is clearly different because everybody is now a title. Being an architect is a title. Being an engineer is a title. Everybody is obsessed with titles in Nigeria. My dad said that professor, he earned that one. Chief, he inherited that one. So he had less. He preferred to be known by what he earned. Um, but that's just to give you some insight into his way of thinking. But yeah, he had good relations and tried to maintain cordial relations with everyone, even though they might have disagreed politically. Yes, and with regards to Chief Igbinedion kindly paid my father's ransom, and I think it's very important to say it was a ransom. That the federal military government of Ibrahim Babangida ransomed my father. Yeah, they asked for money to free him, and Chief Igbinedion paid it. And it has to be said that Chief Igbinedion was also a member of the MPN and one of my father's political opponents at the time. But my father had respect for him and the fact that he paid his ransom because he was the only person who stepped up to do anything. Till today we maintain good and cordial relationships with the Igbinedion. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Chief Igbinedion also has a lot of respect for my father. I went to the convocation at Igbinedion University, the last convocation they had, so that was earlier this year, and I saw that there in Okada, Chief Igbinedion has a garden of heroes and martyrs, which is statues of. In fact, they're all soldiers. My father is the only civilian in that garden of heroes and martyrs. It's called Garden of Heroes and something, heroes and martyrs, I believe. And everyone else is a soldier. My father is the only civilian in that. So Chief Igbinedion clearly has a lot of respect for my father. So we maintain good relations with the Igbinedions, and it's important to say that you can disagree politically, but it doesn't mean that you can't be friends. I'll give you an example. My father's oldest friend, when they were students in university, is Uncle Matthew. When they were students in university, my father, and this was a man who went to secondary school with my father, St. Patrick's in Asaba. And they knew each other from secondary school. Yeah? When they were in UI, my father belonged to the action group. Matthew belonged to the NCNC. They would have arguments about politics, but they were still best friends. So it is possible to do.